Today we're going to look at rate of change on a graph, which is also known as slope. And in order to calculate slope from a graph, you'll want to remember the phrase rise over run. So remember, rate of change is change in y, and when we plot our y values, we're going up or down, that's the rise of the graph, over change in x. When we plot x, we go left or right, and that's called the run on the graph. So there's 4 different types of slope. The first is positive, and that's when the line rises. So if we're looking at a graph from right to left, the line is rising. Negative slope is when the line falls from left to right. Zero slope. So think about the fact that the rate of change, or the slope, is rise over run. So if we have a zero slope, there's zero rise. Also, think about when you see the sunset, looking at the horizon, it's going from left to right, so that would be a zero slope. And then the last one is when the slope is undefined. A slope is called undefined when you try and divide by zero. So that means we have rise, but no run. So that's the vertical line, or up and down. So let's first practice calculating slope from a graph. We're going to look at 2 different ways to calculate slope today, so that's our essential question. So the first thing that you want to do when you are trying to calculate slope from a graph is find 2 nice coordinates, ordered pairs, that the line goes through. So looking at this one, I'm seeing a nice even coordinate right about here, and I'm seeing another one that appears to cross the y-axis at a pretty nice point as well. So then you do the rise over run. And then write your ratio, and that will be your slope. So I'm going to start at my y-coordinate point, and I'm going to count my rise, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, over my run, which is -3 because I'm heading to the left. Slope, we use m to represent slope, and it was a -4/3. Again, 4 was my rise, 3 was my run to the left. My line is falling, so I want to make sure that my slope is negative. Now, another way to think about this, if you're confused why I put the negative on the 4, is that had I started at my other point, I fell 4, which is a -4, and then ran right 3. When we simplify fractions, the negative is always either in the numerator, or we can write it kind of out front, so neither one of them is really negative, but we never leave the negative in the denominator. Alright, so let's practice with a couple more. Again, we want to find 2 nice points on the graph. This one is pretty easy. I can pick any 2 points I want to, because they all go through nice coordinates. And then find the rise and the run and write that ratio. Now here, there is no rise. And then the run, in this case, I have a run of 5. 5 goes into 0 0 times, so this is an example of a zero slope, the horizontal line. Third example, same process, find 2 nice coordinates on the graph. So looking through my graph, I'm seeing this looks like a pretty nice coordinate, and that one as well. So I'm going to use those 2 points. Find the rise and the run. In this case, I have a rise of 1 and a run of 1, 2, 3, 4. The line is rising from left to right, so I know my slope is positive. Always check, I should have put that as step 4. Check to make sure that the sign on your slope matches what your line is doing. If your line is rising, your slope should be positive. If your line is falling, your slope should be negative. So make sure that you always check to make sure that your answer makes sense. One more from a graph. Again, find 2 nice ordered pairs. This is another easy one. I've got 2 right here. Find the rise and the run. In this case, my rise is 1, my run is 0. You can't divide by 0. Remember, division is the opposite of multiplication. So dividing by 0 is the same thing as asking 0 times what equals 1. Well, that's never going to happen, so that's why it's called undefined. So our vertical lines have an undefined slope.